we allow our regions to realise their full potential, it would be worth 30 to 50 billion pound of economy value that isn't being realised at the moment. So there is an alternative and we have to grasp it.
James McMurdock.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Yesterday, a former Labour deputy leader referenced my party as a threat to democracy. Now, I'm sure that was a cute turn of phrase for television, but given the framework you've laid out for elections next year to be gained so easily, isn't the real threat here potentially the Labour Party?
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't characterise the party opposite as a threat to democracy, but I think they might be a threat to sanity. I think we are all tested on a too regular basis by, I would say, fairly ridiculous statements that try to wedge and divide instead of coming together. And there's one thing about devolution, which is, regardless of party politics, what we have seen in local areas across Labour, the Democrats and the Conservatives is that when it comes to the people and the place and putting communities first, party politics are put to one side. And I extend that invitation to the Reform Party too.
Jim Dixon.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. It's instructive to hear a former local government minister on the benches opposite describe the current system as broken, which is probably why we need this white paper. And residents in my constituency of Dartford have grown weary and frustrated at non-delivery by various tiers of local government in Kent, particularly when it comes to failures to provide SEND support for pupils, as well as poor bus services compared to the neighbouring ones in London. What hope for better delivery across all services, schools, social care, health, transport, roads, might we have from the current white paper?
Yeah.
Thank you. I think it's been very difficult for the government to have an honest conversation with local government previously about what an adequate level of public service provision should be in a given place, because it knew full well it wasn't providing the resources to enable that to happen in a fair way across the country. When we fix the financial foundations of local government through the Fair Funding Review and the multi-year settlement, and we build the rigour around it, we will move away from the top-down hundreds and in some cases thousands of reporting metrics that we expect councils to report to from central government. We will look to simplify the funding system, to end unnecessary ring fences, act as shackles on local government. But in return for that, there has got to be governance, there's got to be accountability, and there's got to be a very clear responsibility to deliver the outcomes that the government want in return for that freedoms, flexibility and fair funding.
Clive Jones.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. My constituents will be waiting to see how the Department's plans for local government reorganisation affects Woking and Borough Council. They will want to ensure that their voices are listened to. If we are to be shuffled around, merged, abolished by Whitehall. Importantly, they will want to know if the government plans will hit their wallets. Therefore, can the Minister commit to ensuring that the funding for any changes will come from his department and does not come from council tax, which should instead be used to fund vital local services?
Minister.
It's only this week that we are seeing a genuine redistribution of money in the local government system so that money goes to areas that need it most. Because for far too long, deprivation has been taken out of the funding formula. Recognition that some tax bases are weaker at a local level than others were taken away from the funding formula. And so the recovery grant, £600 million, is intended to get to those areas. And in terms of value for money for public services and getting those down to a neighbourhood level, as I said before, there is a two-tier premium that is paid for both by local taxpayers to the tune of around £2 billion that can be better used for local public services, and by central government through the floor protections that we give to district councils that frankly could be better used in areas of high deprivation and need in other ways.
Alice MacDonald.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. I hope that Norfolk will be part of the Devolution Priority Programme so we can unlock the powers and fundings that we need on areas from transport to housing. But can I ask the Minister specifically about the role of key cities? Because Norwich is a key national, regional economic power, but it needs devolution to fully unlock its potential. Yeah. It's vital that they have a key role and a voice in this process, both devolution and reorganisation. Can he assure us that will be the case and set out the process for cities in particular to do that? Thank you.
Minister.
Yeah. Obviously, both Norfolk and Suffolk were two counties that we had inherited from the previous government. I'll be clear that we could not progress with that deal because it would have saw directly elected council leaders take on the assumed role of a mayor, but without the framework in place to support it. So we didn't support that. But we have been working constructively with both counties to look at a mayoral combined authority over a bigger footprint, and we do hope that they come forward as part of the project programme. That's a matter for them, and they may decide that now is not the right time, but I think there is huge potential. On the matter of reorganisation and devolution, and both Norwich and I would say Ipswich as well, it is very important in my view that when we look at reorganisation, there is a very strong anchor that holds that in terms of place and economy. And of course, in this case, Norwich will be central to that.
Sir Desmond Swain.
What say will voters in the New Forest have if there are proposals to remove either their district or their county council?
So the process of local reorganisation is a statutory process, so it requires local areas to produce plans, as with devolution, I should say, as well. And both of those are required to go to public consultation to solicit views. That's part of the process. When the formal process starts, the government's role then is to assess the proposals and the consultation as it's submitted, and then we don't take a view on geography and form up until we make the final decision.
Andrew Cooper.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The biggest issues holding back economic growth in mid-Cheshire are long-term underinvestment in our transport infrastructure and the lack of a joined-up skills agenda working with businesses across local authority borders. Now, this is not a unique issue to my constituency. The reality is that in 2010, East Germany's economy overtook Northern England's, and that trend has accelerated over the last 14 years. What new powers will the English Devolution Bill give strategic authorities to drive improvements in local transport and take control of their sub-region skills agenda?
Minister.
Well, I mean, this is one of the reasons why we were so keen to complete the map of the north of England, which is most would accept that certainly for strategic transport that those cross county boundaries. And so if we think about connectivity in the north of England, how Lancashire, Greater Manchester, the Liverpool City region, Cheshire, Cumbria and the rest are joined up, and then even into Yorkshire, requires coordination. And what we want to see are mayors and strategic authorities working together across that pan-region so that even more powers can be devolved to address the type of issues that he talks about.
Ben Subjective.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. According to the White Paper, a constituency like mine at Huntingdon will see Cambridgeshire County Council and Huntingdonshire District Council merged into a unitary council as a principal authority under Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Combined Authority as a strategic authority. My question is that how will unitary councillors fulfil the roles of both multiple district and county councillors in a part-time capacity? And what does this also mean for the forthcoming Combined Authority mayoral election in Cambridgeshire and Peterborough?
Minister.
So the forthcoming election for Cambridgeshire and Peterborough will go ahead as planned. There is no proposal to change the boundary of the what is currently a combined authority that will move to a strategic authority. Local government, I should say, reorganisation, where there is an existing mayoral combined authority, providing it is coterminous in terms of the review that's undertaken, doesn't have an impact at all. All that happens is that the membership of the combined authority would change to reflect the new council structures as they appear.
Tom Hayes.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. As a former councillor of 10 years who sought election to this place to give power back to communities, I'm absolutely thrilled by this devolution white paper, and I congratulate the Minister for bringing it forward. Two things. On page 16, there's an ambition to make the Mayor the Chair of the Integrated Care Partnership and also Police and Crime Commissioner, just as in South Yorkshire, and I commend that, and I'd like to hear a bit more about it. On page 94, there's a proposal for a right to buy community assets. Hengistbury Head Outdoor Centre in my constituency has just found out it's about to be a community benefit society with a lease for 99 years, but it's taken far too long to get to this place. I'd like to invite the Minister to come to Hengistbury Head Outdoor Centre. It may involve getting in a kayak, to find out more about what this right to buy could involve on the ground level, and I'd love to know a little bit more about what the government's intent will be.
Minister.
Thank you. Well, I know there are many Labour and cooperative members of Parliament that have really been campaigning very hard on the extended community right to buy, and that's about giving communities the power to take over those important community assets on their high street and in town centres in a way that is meaningful. And so the member for local growth, the Minister for local growth I should say, is working very hard now on a communities white paper that will follow, that will put far more detail on this, because it's not just about, in the end, that community right to buy, it's about a genuine shift where people feel far more control, power and agency in the places where they live.
Mark Francois.
Thank you, ma'am. Trying to create multiple unitary authorities in Essex won't work. It won't have public support. It'll take the best part of a parliament